that feeling, that sinking feeling you get when you realize you've really messed up?
Oh, yeah.
Not like intentionally, not out of malice, but maybe you were just careless or it was a terrible accident and, well, something you did caused real harm.
Hmm.
And in that moment, you just desperately feel like you need a place to go, right? A pause button, maybe? Some protection from the immediate fallout.
That impulse, yeah, that need for refuge when things go wrong, it feels incredibly timeless, doesn't it?
It really does.
And it's fascinating because we actually see an ancient response to that exact human experience within the source material you've shared with us.
Absolutely. So today we're taking a deep dive into exactly that, this really remarkable concept found in the book of Numbers, chapter 35 specifically.
Right.
We're exploring what the text calls the cities of refuge.
It's a provision within this ancient text that, honestly, as you dig into it, reveals some surprisingly relevant ideas. Ideas about how a community might handle, serious accidents and balance, that need for both justice and grace.
Yeah. So our mission here in this deep dive, which is tailored specifically for you based on the material you provided, is to really understand what these cities were according to Numbers 35.
Yep.
And why the text says they were established and maybe what insights they offer us today about some big themes like justice, mercy, second chances, and inclusivity, who gets included in that safety net.
And we're sticking just to these verses and the insights you've drawn from them, right?
Exactly. Strictly the source material provided.
Okay, let's unpack this then. What exactly were these cities of refuge as described in Numbers 35?
Well, the text lays it out pretty clearly. They were designated safe zones, places you could literally run to for protection.
Simple enough.
But, and this is crucial, as the material you shared points out right away, these cities weren't for just any lawbreaker.
That's right. Numbers 35 is very, very specific here. It says these cities were for the manslayer.
The manslayer.
And it immediately defines who that is. Someone who kills any person without intent. Or, it puts it even more simply, someone who accidentally kills someone.
Ah,
That distinction, between accidental death and intentional killing. It's absolutely foundational to the whole concept.
And the text doesn't just leave you guessing about the difference either, does it?
No, not at all.
It explicitly states who the cities were not for. The intentional murderer.
Right.
The verses give detailed examples of what counts as murder, like striking someone with an iron object, or a stone tool that could cause death, or even a wooden tool if it's used in a way that could kill.
Mm-hmm. It also includes actions like pushing someone or striking them out of hatred, or lying in wait to ambush them.
That seems pretty clear. Deliberate, planned malice.
Exactly. And for that kind of act, the consequence described in the text is, well, absolute. The murderer shall be put to death.
Wow.
It even names the person responsible for carrying out that immediate justice, the avenger of blood. Usually this would be a close relative of the victim.
So these cities of refuge, they weren't some kind of loophole for murderers. Not at all.
Definitely not.
They were a very specific provision for someone who, maybe through tragic circumstance or just sheer accident, caused a death without intending to kill.
Precisely. And even for that person, the manslayer, the refuge wasn't like forever.
Right. The text says they flee to the city, that the manslayer may not die until he stands before the congregation for judgment.
Ah, okay. So it's a pause.
Yeah, it's like a holding pattern. Protection from the immediate avenger, the relative, until a formal communal legal process could happen.
That seems designed to interrupt that cycle of immediate, possibly unjust family-based vengeance, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It allows for a structured review of the case.
Makes sense. What about the logistics? Where were these cities?
The text actually specifies. It calls for 6 of them to be set up.
6. Okay.
3 were to be located east of the Jordan River, and the other 3 in the land of Canaan, so west of the Jordan.
Spread out then. Accessible.
Presumably, yeah. You'd need them to be reasonably reachable.
And what really jumps out from these verses, as your notes really highlight, is the inclusivity of access.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, Numbers 35, verse 15, explicitly states that these 6 cities were for the people of Israel and for the stranger and for the sojourner among them.
Wow. So not just for Israelites?
No.
Yeah.
It emphasizes that anyone who kills without intent explicitly, including non-Israelites living within their territory, could flee there for safety.
That is a powerful detail. It really makes you wonder, okay, why? Why establish this kind of system in the first place? What does this tell us about the principles behind it? Or, the perspective on things like justice and mercy embedded in these ancient laws?
Well, looking at the text through the lens of the notes you shared, a few key ideas about the purpose seem to emerge.
Okay.
First, this whole system really underscores that, from this perspective, there's a deep sense of justice. Wrongdoing, even accidental wrongdoing that results in death, isn't just ignored.
Right. It's still incredibly serious.
Yeah, absolutely. There are serious consequences, and a formal judgment process is still required. It's not saying accidents don't matter.
Yeah.
They absolutely do.
Okay. So accountability is definitely there.
Yes. But then, contrasted with that accountability, you see the strong element of mercy.
Ah.
By providing this city of refuge, this safe space, the system makes room for second chances, as your notes put it, for someone who made a truly tragic mistake but wasn't a malicious murderer.
So it's like justice and mercy working together.
Exactly. Your notes phrase it really well. This system seems to show how justice holding people accountable can also make room for mercy, offering that second chance. It's accountability without demanding immediate, unchecked retaliation.
That's a nuanced balance.
It is. And connecting back to who had access, well, this system also points strongly towards an ethic of inclusivity.
Because it wasn't just for the insiders.
Precisely. These safe places weren't restricted to the Israelites. They were explicitly open to everyone native-born and foreigners living among them. This really suggests a perspective where God's care, or grace, isn't limited to one specific group. It extends more broadly.
Okay, so we have this ancient legal system, these designated safe cities for accidental wrongdoers, distinct from murderers, offering temporary refuge until a judgment, and open to everyone living in the land. How does this centuries-old concept connect with us today? Why does it still matter?
That's the big question, isn't it? And the material you shared offers some really thought-provoking connections.
Like what?
Well, first, it speaks directly to that fundamental human need we started with, that deep need for refuge.
Yeah.
We all, at some point or another, we make mistakes. We hurt someone, maybe unintentionally. We make a bad call, or we just fail.
We all know what it feels like to be broken or ashamed or afraid because of something we did, yeah. And the idea of a place to run, a safe harbor, it just resonates, doesn't it?
It really does. Your notes include a quote that I think captures this perfectly. I failed, but that doesn't mean I'm finished. God gives me space to heal and grow.
That's powerful. Space to heal and grow.
And within this same framework, the source material also introduces the idea that, in a larger, perhaps more spiritual sense, Jesus is presented as our ultimate refuge.
Okay, so drawing that parallel.
Yes, that's a connection made in your sources.
Yeah.
And it ties into another really crucial point. This ancient system offers a kind of model for how justice and mercy can actually coexist.
Which seems hard to find sometimes.
Well, yeah. Our culture, as your notes rightly observe, often seems to bounce between extremes, right?
Right.
Either it's harsh, unforgiving judgment on one side,
or total tolerance that maybe lacks real accountability on the other.
Exactly. And this cities of refuge system seems to propose a different path, a better way, as the notes suggest. It holds people accountable for their actions, while also extending grace for mistakes that weren't born out of malice or hate.
It's a model that could really inform how we approach difficult situations, even relationships, in our own lives, couldn't it?
I think so. There's another great quote from the notes. I can stand for what's right and still be kind.
I like that. Stand for what's right and still be kind. That really summarizes the balance.
It does. And that third point we discussed about inclusivity, it circles right back here too.
How so?
The fact that this ancient provision was specifically deliberately extended to strangers and sojourners. That's a powerful reminder for us today.
Yeah.
It suggests that grace and belonging, at least from this perspective, aren't just for those who feel like they've always fit in or who feel like they're good enough. They're available to anyone, even if, maybe especially if, you feel like an outsider.
God's grace is for me, even if I feel like I don't belong. That's another direct quote from the notes. And yeah, that message clearly speaks across the ages.
It really does.
Yeah.
And finally, the material you shared kind of flips the perspective and challenges us to consider this idea outwardly. Meaning, it asks us to think about whether we in our own communities, our own relationships, offer others a kind of refuge when they fail.
Ah, I see.
Do we mirror that balance of accountability and grace that we see described in this ancient text?
Yeah, that's a challenging question. So, okay, looking back at this deep dive into Numbers 35, we see these cities of refuge weren't just like dots on a map.
Not at all.
They represent a really complex system. one that balances the seriousness of life and death with the recognition that, well, accidents happen, and that people can deserve a second chance.
It's a unique provision, really. It combined justice and mercy, offering a safe place for accidental wrongdoers, and specifically including those who were outsiders,
Right.
protecting them from immediate vengeance until a formal judgment could occur.
It's actually a surprisingly sophisticated legal and social concept, especially for its time, wouldn't you say?
I would. It seems designed to prevent tragedy from just spiraling out of control while still upholding the value of human life and, crucially, the need for accountability.
So, considering this ancient system, maybe you can ask yourself, when you mess up, when you feel that desperate need for a safe place, do you tend to run towards the idea of refuge and grace? Or do you run away from it?
That's a deep question.
And then looking outwards, who in your life, or maybe in your wider community, might need you to be that safe place for them right now? Someone who can offer both accountability and grace.
These ancient ideas certainly give us plenty to think about, don't they?
They really do.
And their echoes. Well,
Yeah.
they feel surprisingly persistent in the challenges we still face today.